these boundary changes are particularly radical for two reasons. The first you've already referred to, which is that before the 2010 election, David Cameron, in the wake of the MP's expenses scandal, you remember that one, said, let's cut the cost of politics, and came out in favour of reducing the number of MPs. And subsequently, the coalition government he led with the Liberal Democrats enacted that change. Now, it all got stopped because the Liberal Democrats rebelled when the Conservatives were unable to get House of Lords reform through. But that legislation's been sitting on the statute book, and finally, after the 2015 election, the boundary commissioners were allowed to get on with their job. So that's part one, reducing the number of MPs, essentially a populist move in response to the anger at the House of Commons in the wake of the MP's expenses scandal. But it's the first time we've done that. The second reason why this is radical is that we are, for the first time, actually going to use a relatively logical, arithmetically coherent set of rules that mean that actually every constituency should be more or less of equal size. That has one particularly dramatic effect, which is that Wales, which has long been overrepresented, partly by design, partly by accident, and whose representation was not cut in the wake of the introduction of the National Assembly there, whereas that did happen in Scotland when the Scottish Parliament was created. Wales in particular now, because making its constituencies equal, gets a particularly dramatic reduction. So
is it 40 to 29?
It's 40 to 29. And of course, more generally, the boundaries we are currently using, on which the election last year was fought, were drawn up on the basis of the electorate at the beginning of this century, so they're getting to be nearly 20 years out of date. Population movement traditionally out of the cities into the more rural areas, although of course London these days are beginning to gain population. But that population movement means that, in particular, on average at the last election, the average Labour constituency contained about 4,000 fewer registered voters than the average Conservative constituency. So you can see why the Conservative Party, at least, is quite keen on the idea of equalising them, because all the estimates suggest that yes, the Conservatives are going to lose seats, and we'll come back to that, but Labour will lose more as a result of this cut. And certainly for the Conservative Party as a whole, introducing these boundaries would be advantageous. But the problem with David Cameron's promise is that, of course, he is inviting turkeys to vote for Christmas. And although these boundaries, these recommended boundaries, are drawn up by impartial, non-partisan commissioners operating to the rules laid down by Parliament, they do have to be accepted by the House of Commons. The so-called statutory instrument has to go through. And so the question we're all asking ourselves is, will the government get it through? Two crucial questions. One, indeed, is, well, look, some individual Conservative MPs who are displaced potentially as a result of this lose out. And I think the point about Mr. Willington's comment is that I think Central Office is going to do an awful lot of effort to try to ensure that anybody who looks is going to lose out, either their neighbour is persuaded to stand down, who's rather older, or, as you said, maybe go to the House of Lords. The other crucial group, however, are the DUP in Northern Ireland. Now, the DUP were very upset about the original proposals published, well over a year now ago for Northern Ireland. They were happier with the revised proposals that came out a few months ago, and the final proposals are much closer to the revised proposals than the original ones. But it might, the estimates have come out for Northern Ireland is that maybe the DUP will be all right, they'll still get their 10 seats, but maybe they will lose one. So that's also crucial. And we have to remember this is a minority government, so if either the DUP in the end decide they cannot stomach this, or if indeed some individual Conservative MPs decide they cannot stomach this, because Labour, the SNP and everybody else who are going to lose out from this are going to be opposed, including, by the way, the Liberal Democrats who originally put all this through, then the government could lose. So behind the drama of Brexit and the negotiations in the next few weeks, also watch out for that apparently nerdy but potentially very important drama of the boundary redrawing and the cutting the number of MPs. Will, at the end of the day, Theresa May be able to implement the plan that David Cameron came up with nearly 10 years ago?
Now, a lot of people would have made a lot of money if they'd taken some of your advice at various elections in the past. If you were asked to put your money in a certain place now, John, as to whether she will get this through, what would you say?
I think at the moment the odds are that she will probably just squeak it through. I'm assuming that at the end of the day the DUP will stick with it, and I may be wrong in that, and that at the end of the day Conservative Central Office will make enough promises to enough Conservative MPs for it to go through. I guess the risk, however, is that this may get caught up in one of the rows between, particularly at the moment, the ardent Brexiteers and the government, and it's so so happens beside Boris Johnson, two other Brexiteers whose seats are imperiled. One is Priti Patel, the other is David Davis. Now, maybe if things are going badly between the Brexiteers and the government, the Brexiteers try to use this particular vote to put a shot across the bows against the government and say, look, you cannot ignore us when it comes to the meaningful vote. So I guess you have to remember, in politics, things are not always straightforward. Timing is sometimes crucial.
Yes.
And maybe as a result of the internal rows inside the Conservative Party, it won't go through. But I think at the minute, the odds are in favour, assuming the DUP go with it. But yes, sure, you're absolutely right, it's not certain.